Do you need to be worried about a certain NFC North rookie tight end? How do you feel about the changing quarterback situation in Indianapolis? And what is the deal with Aaron Rodgers and the fallout with him signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers? We've got a great show for you tonight. Kevin Horowitz, the 8-time FFPC Main Event and Big Gorilla champion, will stop on by to let us know how his drafts this summer are going so far. Plus, we'll talk with him about the Baltimore Ravens, the Cleveland Browns, and so much more, including, but not limited to, the Kansas City Chiefs backfield. We've got a great show for you. I'm Eric Balkman. Ferrell Elliott, the definitive commissioner of fantasy football, is also here tonight. Kevin Horowitz on the way. Stick around. We've got a great show for you. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour starts now.
Can't stand the pressure. I've seen greater men than need a lesson.
Broadcast live and heard around the world, you are now watching the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. Welcome to the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Ferrell Elliott. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for analysis from the best players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Ferrell Elliott.
Solace in the scripture. Are we not all our father's sons? I became a man. Nobody ever told me what a man was.
Hey, thank you so much, Rob. Greetings and salutations to all the Balkaholics, all the Ferrelliacs tuning in right now, whether you're watching live, whether you're listening live, or hanging out around the world. We're so glad to have you tonight on the program. This is the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour on the FFPC YouTube socials, as well as Facebook, as well as X. So glad to have you aboard. I am your slightly above average host, Eric Balkman. You know me from the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown, the Better Sports Network's FFPC Insider Access Show, as well as the Fantasy Football Players Championship. You can connect with me over at X at Eric Balkman. That's EricBalkman. We have a fantastic show for you tonight. We don't have a whole lot of time to get into it. Like I said, this show could easily be 2.5, 3 hours, but we limit it to 1 hour plus. So we'll try to get into it tonight. If you want to connect with us on X, you can do so at HSFF. I'm at Eric Balkman. Learn more about Ferrell Elliott's Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship, which I think I'm setting a new record in for league participation this year, and I'm very excited about it. KFFSC.com. That's KFFSC.com. Facebook.com/HSFF. You can email the show at highstakesfantasyfootball@gmail.com. If you have any questions for us, send them in right now. We'll try to get to all the chat room questions, all the X posts, and the emails, and the fantasy feedback segment later on in the show. Thanks to our audio engineer and my best friend, Bryce, and of course, our producer and mutual friend, Rob. The FFPC Big Gorilla Tournament is going fast and furious right now. We have a $1 million grand prize at stake, and it just costs $350 to enter. In fact, if you want to enter 3 teams, we will give you a $50 discount on every third team right now at myffpc.com. You want to draft slow, 2 hours, 6 hours. You want to draft fast, 60-second clocks. You can do that at myffpc.com. The early Rampage tournament and the 7 Bananas promo is still going on right now. In fact, I'm going to look it up right now. As of late last night, we had 52 early Rampage tournaments, early Rampage leagues left. Now we're down to 49. The early Rampage tournament, basically, if you're registering for the Big Gorilla right now, you're automatically entered into the early Rampage tournament. So for $350, you're competing for not 1, but 2 grand prizes. One is $1 million, one is $10,000. Register now, myffpc.com. And then if you continue to get that 7 pick, not only twice in a row, 3 times in a row, 4 times in a row, every time you get it at least 2 times in a row, we're going to give you a $125 FFPC Best Ball Tournament entry for free. We're going to give you a free FFPC Main Event $2,200 entry for free. We're going to give you a $10,000 High Society entry for free. And then if you somehow get that 7 pick 5 times in a row, a Jungle Safari for 4, a $50,000 value courtesy of the Fantasy Football Players Championship. And if you don't want to go on a Jungle Safari, if that's not your jam, if you'd rather stay in the United States or North America or in the Northern Hemisphere and draft teams, we'll just give you 50 grand cash. No problem. Just register now for the Big Gorilla. MyFFPC.com. We got the FFPC main event going on this weekend as well. Not only slow drafts, but we have 2 live drafts going on this weekend. The draft tomorrow that starts at 10 o'clock Eastern time. There's only 1 spot left in that. Register now, myffpc.com. We have a separate main event live draft going on Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern time. 5 spots available in that right now. So you can draft for $1 million at your leisure this weekend with the FFPC. FFPC Best Ball and Superflex Best Ball Tournament going on as well. A $300,000 and $100,000 grand prize, respectively. $125 or $35 to entry for entry. And remember, in the FFPC Best Ball Tournament, even if you don't win it this year, you come in second place, we're going to give you $100 grand. That's right. Don't even win the tournament. Be a loser, and you get $100 grand. That's the best part about the FFPC Best Ball Tournament this year. 30-second, 60-second, 2-hour, and 6-hour clocks available there. And if you want to play Dynasty Fantasy Football, myffpc.com is your home for that. Entry fees range from $100 to $5,000, 1,800 plus leagues. Excuse me. As of last week, 2,000 plus leagues over the course of 15 years. Not a single one has ever folded with the FFPC. Your home for Dynasty Fantasy Football at myffpc.com. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment on the video, share it with your friends, share it with your enemies, and get notified each and every time we go live. I want to bring on the co-host with the most right now. He is the commissioner of the definitive commissioner of fantasy football and the commissioner of the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship at KFFSC.com. The incomparable Ferrell Elliott. Ferrell, good evening. Happy June to you. So glad that you're hopping aboard tonight. Good evening, and how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm worried. Is there going to be a test on all the information you just gave out? I'm trying to keep notes. I'm trying to enter stuff over here. You are a record-setting trailblazer KFFSC player. And then you run down all the options in the FFPC. I don't want to go on the safari. I want to come to New York and spend a week with Alex K. That's what I want to do.
I would love that too.
That would be my safari into New York. Rick Ross has talked about it. Rick says I don't usually get to watch live. He likes to marinate in the discussions that we have. It's great to have everybody here live.
Yeah, we're going to get into plenty of discussions tonight, Ferrell. Before I move on, you and I were talking before the show, and we said, hey, bring up the KFFSC $100 Sweet 16 championship tonight.
That's real exciting.
Yeah,
that's real exciting to get in that $100 league. Chase, no, there's no $1 million prize.
But it is a $10,000 grand prize, right?
That is in the $300.
That's in the $300.
We've only got 96 teams, so
right.
The $100 entry, the grand prize is in the neighborhood of $3,000.
So
the big prize is in the division.
So So my point is the $100 one, that league filled, and we're already off and running on that.
That was the Vontae Mack. No matter what, Vontae Mack, and that filled, but there's still 6 choices, which are all presently scheduled to be slow drafts, and there's still 6 choices, 6 divisions available for anyone that would like to join. Now, the old-fashioned bulky, that's the one you're in the Run to Daylight, which is a $300 buy-in. And as soon as that one fills, we'll be off and running.
Well over halfway full. Only a few spots left in that. That's the 2025 Run to Daylight Sweet 16 Championship. You can compete against me, and I'm not ashamed to say we have who else do we have in that? Stu Keen, who has been a guest on this show.
You gotta love Stu.
That one. Our good buddy Dominic Guzzetti is in that one as well. Yeah. Last week's guest on this show, Steven Hirgalos, is also on that show, or in that league, excuse me. Jake Valike, a longtime FFPC 26er who I know you compete with and against in the FFPC. He's in that league as well. It's a lot of fun. Join us now, KFFSC.com. And, of course, all the main event onlines that are going on right now. Slow. This is the time to get in. I know there's people that are telling you, don't join a league right now. It's June. Nothing happens. Trust me.
Everything's happening.
People are moving the needle on ADP right now. Rightly or wrongly, you decide when you join a league at KFFSC or, of course, the FFPC as well. It's the time to draft. And I'm going to let everybody know that right now. Okay.
To drafting in June, though.
To drafting in June. Let me raise my glass to this here. I got I got a hazy IPA.
Looks like you got a pineapple whip there. Looks good.
1 pineapple whip, 2 pineapple whip, 3 pineapple whips.
1 pineapple whip.
Colston Loveland.
What do you want to do with him?
Well, that's my question to you. He's coming back from off-season shoulder surgery. Adam, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right. It's either Adam Johns or Adam Jans, who covers the Bears for The Athletic, says that Loveland was spotted in uniform. He was coming out to the practice field with other members of the Bears, like the staff members from the Bears. This was on the final day of minicamp this past week. Jans stated that head coach Ben Johnson said, quote, at some point here in camp, we should get the green light for Loveland to come back and practice with the rest of the team. As a reminder, the Bears utilized the 10th overall pick in the draft this past April on Loveland over Tyler Warren, and Loveland underwent shoulder surgery in the offseason. Now, he has a great chance at being the number 1 tight end for the Bears, even though Chicago gave Cole Kmet all that money. And Ben Johnson, by the way, did compare him to Sam Laporta, who he coached in Detroit these past few years as well. If we look at the mojo on Colston Loveland right now, and Ferrell, what I'm going to do is I'm going to utilize the FFPC Big Gorilla data on this, which is at fantasymojo.com. Fantasy Mojo, the place that we always cite anytime we utilize ADP on this show. We always utilize Fantasy Mojo. I highly recommend getting a subscription to fantasymojo.com if you're drafting in the FFPC. Darren Armani, the godfather of the FFPC versus Joe's, he knows what's up. And Colston Loveland right now, over the last 7 days, has an ADP of the 902 at tight end 13. Ferrell, we have seen a really good track record of tight ends being drafted in the top 15, having not only solid NFL careers, but good rookie years as well. However, Loveland is coming off this shoulder surgery, and you don't want rookies, especially a tight end, getting off to a slow start. How do you feel about that ADP with Colston Loveland right now at the 902, knowing he is going right behind Tyler Warren and Dalton Kincaid, but he is going ahead of Tucker Kraft and Jake Ferguson?
I feel everything very, very positive about this, and he should go in front of Kraft and Ferguson. This is what we're going to begin to see be very, very successful at the tight end position in a Bowers-esque way, however, a more physically imposing player, but who moves the same way. This is a move player. This is a fluid player. He's more of a hybrid wide receiver, despite the fact that he's 6'6", and he's got a catching frame that, you know, our young quarterback there in Chicago can't throw over, out, or around. You can just kind of generally be targeted, and you're going to find this guy. Now, the coach likes him, which is a big, big deal. The coach and the tight end get there at the same time. And that leaves Cole Kmet to do the dirty work. Cole Kmet's still going to be a very good contributing football player to this team. It's going to free up things for this player. It's going to help Loveland be a better player and be more productive fantasy player. I love what is going to happen here. Is he going to have a Bowers-like year? I don't know, but he certainly could. I was thinking about Bowers, who we talk about often on this show. The general manager last year went out of the box too and drafted very early a tight end in Bowers' case, and he was very successful. That general manager got fired. Sometimes you just can't be good enough in this football business. But Loveland is going to prove that things in Chicago on the coach's side, in the front office side, and I'll remind everybody in the training room side that the shoulder's not a serious situation. It's not going to impair him from advancing as to what he needs to do.
So that's the situation with Loveland. I happen to agree with you, Ferrell. I'm not dinging Loveland too much on this right now. I think the more concerning shoulder injury right now is coming out of Indianapolis. Jeremy Fowler reported today that he was told structurally, quote, Anthony Richardson's shoulder is okay.
Okay.
All right. So Shane Steichen, who's the head coach of Indianapolis, said that Richardson is not expected to have surgery on his shoulder. However, Fowler from ESPN reported that Richardson did indeed undergo a scan on his shoulder. It did reveal no structural damage. Richardson, at times, according to Jeremy Fowler, has thrown more than 100 passes daily as he prepares to become the QB1 for the Colts as he's competing for starting reps with Daniel Jones. Now, the shoulder injury, it sounds like it's just inflammation, but again, we don't know. This is just and the injury reporting on stuff in early June is nothing compared to what the injury reporting is going to be in early September, early October, so on and so forth. He should be able to come back for training camp because he's going to get a lot of rest. He's going to be able to relax that shoulder as well. However, when you consider that Daniel Jones took less money to sign with Indianapolis, leaving the Minnesota Vikings, knowing that he could be competing with J.J. McCarthy, I think this is interesting. In OTAs, Richardson and Jones, before the injury to Richardson, we saw him kind of splitting reps with Jones, Richardson and Jones. Nobody had the leg up in this competition. And now we have a shoulder injury for Richardson that I know, like when I was doing the broadcast last night, as we were covering the FFPC Best Ball Tournament, Theo Greminger drafting live, Dave Terpoli joining me as well. Both of those guys did express some concern with Richardson, Ferrell. How concerned are you about Anthony Richardson right now in fantasy football drafts, knowing that he is dealing with this supposedly structurally sound shoulder injury?
It's interesting because people overdrafted Anthony Richardson. Now, hindsight, that's sure, Ferrell. Sure, everybody overdrafted Anthony Richardson. Most people that were conservative pumped the brakes on Anthony Richardson because they said, you know what, he just hasn't played a lot of football. He needs to play more football. And he hasn't played a lot of football. And, you know, he's had some terrible situations with his body. So you have to say, well, sure, Anthony Richardson may not play. You say that quarterback Jones took less money. I'm not feeling too bad for him. The deal is $14 million, so he's coming in at $14 million. So I don't think the Colts pay him $14 million not to come in and compete. However, if I'm running the Colts and I take the look and by the way, just quick without looking bulky, how many years Jones been in the league?
I'd say 5.
Yeah, it's 7 now, Balky.
Oh, my God. Wow.
Yes, it's 7 years this guy's been in the league, and he had a good year. This will be his 7th year. He had a good year a couple years ago when Dayball controlled a controlled passing game with a lot of rushing. I don't see that being the way the Colts are going to play football. There's a note on here that says, how does this affect Pittman and Warren? And, you know, you're going to have a short passing game with Jones on the field. With Richardson, you know, I'll say it again, that downfield accuracy is a beautiful thing, and the other things he can learn just by repetition. So that's the biggest problem. He hasn't played a lot. If he's not in OTAs and not ready to go, he's missing that repetition, which is probably the only starting quarterback in the NFL that I would be real concerned about that now. However, I like the fantasy football upside of all the Colts better with Richardson on the field. What's our ADP on Richardson? What's Darren got him at?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you next. In regards to the Indianapolis quarterback situation, Daniel Jones is being drafted quarterback 33 at the 1811. Richardson, over the last 7 days in the FFPC Big Gorilla, quarterback 27 at the 1607. So
okay, 1607. Were people spending fifth round, sixth round draft picks on this player last year?
Yeah, they were.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And he's a better player now than he was last year. And yeah, you know, so it's 16 in the draft. I have no concerns. I'm just going to go ahead and grab it.
So Scott Hoyt chiming in, health aside, Anthony Richardson is still not a complete quarterback yet. I don't think anybody's going to argue that. I think we expect more from Richardson.
You know, Derek Carr's not a complete quarterback.
No, he's not.
Wait a minute, and he's not going to become one. And,
no.
You know, every quarterback's working on completing that perfect season. None of them are ever going to get there. And I understand what Scott's saying. He's you know, Richardson's passes, I think, I saw a stat, and I can't remember exactly how it was phrased. Oh, off-target passes. 25% of his passes last year were off-target, meaning they were out of the catching zone. What they would be ruled as an uncatchable pass. Yeah.
So the other thing I want to bring up here, John Terry said, Michael Pittman is so good that quarterback doesn't matter for you, Ferrell. And you may not even tongue in cheek agree with that. John Terry also saying Richardson being the starter is only good fantasy wise for Anthony Richardson. And Scott Hoyt chiming in on YouTube right now. Daniel Jones starting for the Colts helps Michael Pittman, helps Tyler Warren. If Jones is the starter over Richardson, who do we bump up among Colts pass catchers in our draft boards?
You really can't bump up anyone because they're going to catch passes. They're going to gain about 8 or 10 yards. They won't have the type of explosive offense. If you're going to as a football team trying to be successful with Daniel Jones. Right. And we talk about Richardson's not playing. I bet you Richardson has won more games than he's lost in his brief career, or he's right around 500. Jones loses 2/3 or more of the games he started. You would have to fact check me on that, Balky, because I'm doing that on the cuff. But
it's not worth it because I think you're in the ballpark.
Okay.
With that, I don't think anybody's going to fight you on that. Anthony Richardson, as I stated, according to Mojo, quarterback 27 right now. Anthony Richardson, who was like roughly quarterback 6, quarterback 7 last year in a lot of leagues, is now this year, 1 year after going that high, going behind rookie Cam Ward, Geno Smith, Bryce Young, Matthew Stafford, Tua Tagovailoa, Michael Penix, Trevor Lawrence, J.J. McCarthy, C.J. Stroud, and Jordan Love. Those guys are all going well ahead. Yeah, Anthony Richardson.
Well, last year drafters thought he was too good.
Now
this year they think he's not good enough.
He's not good at all. Yeah,
and so he's going to fall somewhere in the middle of there.
I want to get into Aaron Rodgers and then this De'Ami Brown news from Jaguars.com's John Ozer. But we've kept our guest waiting way too long, and this is the big part of the show, so I want to get into him tonight. He has played in a cavalcade of FFPC leagues over the years. He is an 8-time, count them 8-time league champion in the FFPC leagues, the FFPC space, be it the Fantasy Pros Championship, the FFPC Main Event, the FFPC Satellite Leagues. He's got 8 titles to his name. He's going to join us tonight. He's going to tell us about the way he's building his team so far this year and give us some player evaluations. Please welcome into the program, Mr. Kevin Horowitz. Kevin, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. The pride of Maryland, and you are hanging out with us on a Friday evening. Thank you so much for taking a break from your crab and talking a little fantasy football with us tonight, man. How's it going over in Maryland?
Great. Thanks so much for having me. Really happy to be on the show. Obviously, I'm a big Ravens fan, season ticket holder for the Ravens. So,
good for you.
You know, I guess I do hedge a little bit towards the Ravens, but in fantasy this year, it makes a lot of sense anyway. So
and we're going to lead off with that. Farrell's going to ask you about that because when I was looking over your teams and your ownership, I was kind of like, I don't want to say blown away, but I was like, holy cow, look at all this Ravens ownership. We'll get into that in a second. When you're not winning all these FFPC leagues over the years, Kevin, what are you doing for a living in Maryland?
Sure. So I'm in sales management, happily doing that, but I do treat fantasy football basically like a second job, to be honest with you. I mean, study it about 3-4 hours a day all the time, year round, not just during the football season. Yeah, I would say average. Of course, during the football season, and especially the waiver period, then it's a little bit more than that.
Oh, I love that. That's really good. Always love a salesman. It's fantastic. When you're going to those Ravens games, are you taking longtime football fans that you've grown up with to the games? Are you taking business people to the games? Are you taking family? Who's accompanying you to all these games with these season tickets for the Ravens?
Once in a while, bring a friend or a colleague, but most of the time it's family. We only have 3 tickets, so that limits the options with the family.
Well, yeah, you have to have your own little lottery then. I mean, you'll figure that out. I love the fact that you're stacking Ravens. I love the fact that you're having success with it. I have done the same thing. Have not enjoyed that kind of success. But being from Louisville, Kentucky, we are drawn to collecting as many types or as many teams with quarterback Lamar Jackson leading the teams. I have long thought, and naturally the running back Henry is spectacular, and Andrews has made his contributions, but I have long thought you get the favorite Raven. My favorite is Flowers, but I've thought that there's just not enough passing opportunities to get those players up to 80, 90 catches on a regular basis, which we'd have to win at fantasy. This week, Bateman signed a big contract, and his year last year was perfect because of the 9 touchdowns. So the strategy I think that you're applying, I think I know what it is because I think you're getting value on all the Ravens you draft, including Jackson. Is that what it is, or are you just so familiar with those players and believe in them that you're just going to go get them, you're going to target them, you're going to put them in your team, your lineup? What's the mix look like to you?
Well, I would say it's a little bit of both. I mean, sure, I have love for the team and I study them the most. I mean, I read, just local news all the time anyways, so it makes it a little easier. But I think that Lamar Jackson possibly will be like the greatest, at least regular season quarterback, which is really the fantasy season quarterback, that we may ever see. I mean, it's really pretty amazing. Regular season, you guys have the stats, it's just, it's almost untouchable. So for me, he's my main guy. Any league I can get him in, I'm going to take him. There's other quarterbacks that are close, but I just feel really good about him. And then obviously that means people around him are going to do well. Mm-hmm. So, one of my strategies is that I like to stick with consistency and also kind of stay away from injury-prone players. Mm-hmm. So I've been burned a few times in the past by players that can be tops in the leagues, like a Christian McCaffrey, and it's just one of these things where I don't want to take that chance. So I would rather take Derrick Henry and just get, consistency there. Maybe he doesn't totally blow it up all the time, but chances of him going down are pretty slim.
Yeah, and I've been talking to the same guys since 2021 that tell me that Henry's through. Oh, he can't carry he can't carry the ball like that every year. He's going to regress to the mean, whatever the hell that means. Balky, what's on your mind?
Well, no, I'm just saying I've probably been one of them because
Balky, you don't make mistakes.
He's an alien, and he's proven that he's been an alien over the course of the year, over the last few years. What he's been able to do has been insane. It's kind of unprecedented as well. Now, speaking of unprecedented, Kevin, you are a very accomplished player. You are not like me, where you are drafting. Like I live in Northeast Wisconsin. I'm not drafting all these Packers and succeeding. This year for you, a guy who has won all these FFPC leagues over the year, I can't remember a player that we've had on this show that is drafting all these players on his hometown team. We've seen it before, like, maybe I'd lean towards my hometown team. But, man, you are 36% ownership on Lamar Jackson, 28% ownership on DeAndre Hopkins. Mark Andrews, who John Terry was asking us in the YouTube chat. Mark Andrews, 25% ownership. The newly contracted Rashad Bateman for the Ravens, 23% ownership. Justice Hill, for God's sake, 22%. Derrick Henry, you're at 20%. I mean, Isaiah Likely, 19%. You are as close to being as all in on one team as I've ever seen before. It's clear that you're trying to target Ravens. I know you're a Ravens fan, but you're also an accomplished fantasy football player. Separating your fandom from fantasy football, you are still all in on Baltimore this year. Is it because of the presence of Lamar Jackson, or is there something added to the gumbo this year in Baltimore that you are all about getting all these Ravens whenever you can?
Well, I think that it wouldn't necessarily matter that I'm a Ravens fan in the sense that from a fantasy perspective, they're lighting it up. I believe they're going to be the highest scoring team in the NFL, most likely again. And I have a lot of faith in their system, one way or another, whether they're going to run it in, whether they're going to pass it in. I mean, Lamar can do it all. Yeah. And I think they're building pieces around him that are really great. You mentioned Flowers. I mean, Flowers went down last year. If he doesn't go down, I mean, he's like maybe top 5 receiver. I mean, so it's another one you can get kind of late. Again, you talk about average draft position and things like that. I mean, some of these leagues with my Lamar Jackson ownership, I got him in the 3rd round. I'm like laughing, that he's still there in the 3rd round. So, and Flowers is going pretty late too, like to 3rd, 4th round, things like that. So I feel like I'm getting value regardless of the fact that it's the team I root for. I'm also rooting for doing well in fantasy football and earning money, that type of thing. I feel like it's earning, so it does make a lot of sense to go for Ravens. But I have other teams that I'm focusing a little bit on too, that I have faith in too. I have a lot of faith in players from the Eagles, players from the Commanders, players from the Chiefs, to name a few, and then the Lions. So, I have certain teams I just think they're going to be doing well on offense. So they're safe bets. And then there's just certain players that are consistent, just regularly. And a lot of them have dropped in the draft where, they used to be like first rounders, but I guess because of them getting older, people are like, oh, I got to get somebody younger. I don't really feel that way. I mean, if somebody's proven and they're in the league, they don't get hurt much or whatever, they're going to keep going. I mean, why would they stop doing it? I think a good example of that would be like Tony Pollard. It's like he's like, you would think he was going to be a little bit worn down. A big one is Joe Mixon. He goes to Houston and people are like, oh, he's probably done. That's why Cincinnati let him go. And, he lights it up. So I do lean veteran. You're probably going to notice that if you're really studying my teams, because you don't know what's going to happen with these rookies. I mean, sure, they could blow it up, but you have the running back rookies who they didn't have to pass block at all in college or whatever. So now they might not get on the field all the time. So I feel a lot safer with the veterans. So that's one of the other things I lean towards.
Well, Kevin, just for our permanent record and for those people that are keeping score at home, I really do appreciate your Lamar Jackson affection. What year did you graduate from University of Louisville?
Maryland.
No,
yeah, I went to Maryland.
He's not. It's Louisville's where.
Yeah. Yes.
All right. So you love the veterans. Now you didn't see this happening, and I want to know if it's still going to happen. And I didn't see it happen either. I never accumulated many Jonnu Smith draft picks. However, I adopted some orphans, and I found Jonnu Smith to be buried on the roster of a lot of them. And I kept him because, a change of scenery and a new opportunity. It was his 8th year in the league, 8 touchdowns, 80 catches. It was so unbelievable. Matter of fact, if you put his first 3 years together, you don't get 80 catches. If you put the 2 groupings of the next 2 years together, you don't get 80 catches. Is that a veteran you're targeting? Is that a guy that you expect to come back and have a year 9, or did we just have a late season one-off from Jonnu Smith?
Well, I think he's going to do well. I would still put him up in my top 6 or 7 tight ends.
Okay, that's good.
I do not think he will repeat what he did last year, but I just think he's going to do well. I just think the thing about the Dolphins is it was a little bit off of their norm to be so heavy on their tight end when they got such great receivers, obviously Tyreek Hill, and then their running backs are really great. So, A-Chain, Jalen Wright. So I think it's going to be more dispersed, more evenly this year. So I don't necessarily think he's going to put up the same kind of points that he did last year, but I still think he's going to do well. And as you guys know, in FFPC, the tight end is weighted. And you'll notice the way I draft, I very heavily focus on getting the best tight ends I can get. I'll take them early. I'll take them often. The thing that killed me last year from winning potentially 6 figures, 7 figures, was that I had too many injuries at tight end at the end of the season. And I'm not going to let myself get in that situation again. So I'm taking extra tight ends this year. So,
Kevin, I want to get back to the Ravens here because the Ravens questions are coming fast and furious on YouTube right now. Tom Smith, a good buddy from the FFPC and the KFFSC, says, how did DeAndre Hopkins finish last year? Well, Tom, I can tell you that he finished with 56 catches for just over 600 yards, and he gets in the end zone 5 times. Kevin, you have DeAndre Hopkins on a lot of your teams, and I guess perhaps the reason is everybody else has left him for dead. You look at the FFPC $300,000 Best Ball ADP tournament. He's wide receiver 80 at the 1810 right now. Clearly, you are willing to invest in Hopkins late. Why should FFPC owners be willing to do the same?
Well, first of all, again, you're looking at a veteran player who's been at the very, very top of the game. So, you look at the Chiefs last year, they didn't even really utilize him that much. And the little bit they did, he caught the ball, and especially in the end zone. I mean, he's still got great hands. His speed is still there too. When I read locally, he's racing Flowers and Jackson still. I mean, even at his age. So I think he's a sleeper. And to a lot of people, I think he's a sleeper. To me, I think he's going to get back some of what he did when he was he's like top 1, 2, 3 in the whole league, abilities that he has. And the Ravens, because of the dual threat with the running game and everybody's so focused on Lamar and they're focused on Henry, I mean, he's going to be wide open in the back of the end zone. And that's basically what happened with Likely last year. So that was the other thing.
I'm going to get to Likely in a second here. Hopkins right now in the FFPC Big Gorilla is going behind such stalwarts at wide receiver like Wan'Dale Robinson, Adam Thielen, Pat Bryant, Jalen Noel, Xavier Legette, and the currently as of yet unsigned Keenan Allen. You can get Hopkins in the 17th round of the Big Gorilla right now. We and Rick Ross chiming in on Hopkins, thought he was the second best wide receiver in the NFL, just behind Devontae Adams. I want to bring up the other thing that Scott Hoyt has been talking about on YouTube right now, as long as we're talking about tight ends. Scott wants to know, Kevin, is this the year finally Isaiah Likely is the go-to tight end over Mark Andrews? Now, a bit of background on this, and Scott can correct me if I'm wrong. But Scott came on the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown shortly after the 2024 season started, and Scott was a huge investor in the stalwarts from the early games on Thursday this past year with the Chiefs and Ravens, and then on Friday with the Packers and Eagles, and found himself very high up in the FFPC overall leaderboards the first few weeks of the season, Likely being one of his top choices. He also got Jaden Reed as well. So he's very interested into hearing your input on whether Likely is the guy to own over Andrews this year, bearing in mind that the head coach for the Ravens, John Harbaugh, said he expects Isaiah Likely to be an all-pro this season. Break this down for us, man, because this could shift fantasy careers and fantasy seasons, maybe for $1 million grand prize this year, based on what you say. No pressure.
I love it. Well, I'll tell you this. It's kind of funny that we were just talking about Hopkins, because I actually think that Hopkins is going to take a little bit of Likely's thunder away at the end zone. I think that's going to be sort of a secret weapon there, and there might be a little bit more focus on the coverage with Likely as well. But I think the big thing is that with Andrews, again, even though I'm veteran heavy, but there is also the possibility that he could get hurt. He's been hurt before. Again, I like to be a little safer versus people that have been injured, a decent amount. So the thing about that is if he goes down, right? I mean, you can get Likely pretty late in drafts right now. So if Andrews goes down, Likely will go off, right? So that's going to be huge. Even if Andrews is healthy, Likely still going to do well, okay? Probably be, top 15, maybe 20 in that range. But if Andrews goes down, I'd say Likely jumps up to like top 5 tight end in the NFL this year.
Really?
You know what's wild about this, and I want to ask one more Ravens question, but I'm just going to bring this up here, and perhaps I'm speaking out of turn, and feel free to call me out on this if I am. Isaiah Likely is right now tight end 17 at the 1101. Ferrell and Kevin, He is going behind Kyle Pitts, Jake Ferguson, Tucker Kraft, Dalton Kincaid, Colston Loveland, Tyler Warren, Mark Andrews, David Njoku, Jonnu Smith, Evan Engram, TJ Hawkinson, Travis Kelce, Sam Laporta. I'm going to keep going up here. George Kittle. I'm going to stop at George Kittle, and maybe I'm being a little bit bombastic here because George Kittle is a third-round pick and likely is going much lower than that. But if everything were to fall into place with Baltimore this year, let's say Andrews goes down. Let's say Andrews just kind of takes a back seat to Isaiah Likely. I could see him in a world, non-zero chance, not likely, maybe Isaiah Likely.
Likely.
Yeah, exactly. But I could see Likely if something happens to Andrews, which we've seen before, I could see him outperforming all these guys easily. I could see him performing over Pitts and Kraft and Kincaid and Loveland and Warren. And then obviously if something happens to Andrews, he's going to outperform him. David Njoku is dealing with Jerry Jeudy, Cedric Tillman, the rise of him as well. You have Jake Ferguson not only dealing with CeeDee Lamb, but George Pickens as well. We can go up to Jonnu Smith, who maybe takes a back seat and things normalize with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. You can go up to Evan Engram and know that they have Bashal Tutin and Travis Etienne and Travis Hunter and Brian Thomas there. You can go up to TJ Hawkinson. They have Addison. They have Justin Jefferson. I'm not saying it is probably going to happen or even better than a 50% chance of happening. But when you're talking about a tight end in the FFPC tight end premium format, Isaiah Likely at the 1101, the second half of the FFPC Big Gorilla Tournament ADP. This is where he's going. You don't have to take him in the top 10 rounds. You can take him 11th or later. I think there is significant upside, Kevin. You're our Ravens guy. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, it's a no-brainer. I mean, he's undervalued in there. So big time if Andrews goes down. I mean, literally, he could do better than Kittle, if Andrews were to go down. So it's huge upside, and it's very little risk at that point in the draft. So, yeah, I feel good about Likely, especially where he's being drafted.
I am very uncomfortable because I am never in a room where I am the least optimistic person about any subject. And here I find myself treading water in the deep end of this Likely conversation. And I think Booger Freeman is right on spot. Maybe for a week or two. That's what it's always been. And I don't want to repeat myself from last week, but I love the enthusiasm. I'm always on an upside of a player, but I see a lot of great tight end talent, and this player is the same reason that Flowers is never going to catch 90 balls or 100 balls regularly. He's never going to be a Tyreek Hill because we're dealing with a team that has just so many weapons and a quarterback that'll put his feet to work. And then they will salt away games with Derrick Henry. Bang, bang, bang. It's not necessary for this player to be a top 5 tight end, a top 10 tight end, maybe even a top 15 tight end to make the Baltimore Ravens odds-on favorite to win the AFC and likely to be in your Super Bowl, but without a 60-catch season from Likely, no matter what happens to him.
But I think that the question to ask yourself there is, well, where's Andrews rank in your chart? So if Andrews is like number 5, number 6, somewhere like that, and Andrews goes down, I can tell you right now, Jackson has a relationship with Likely. Yeah. I mean, they are on the same page.
The similarity between these two players ends at the definition of the position. That's and then there's no similarity after that. They don't even run the same route tree. They don't even line up at the same position. Unless Andrews is.
All right, so Ferrell, this is worth talking about here. Mark Andrews currently going at tight end 10 at the 7-10. Let's say he goes down. Let's frame this. Let's say he goes down in the preseason for posterity's sake.
Let's say he slips in the bathtub tonight and can't get out. He can't get out. There's all these season ticket holders. There's no one to come help him get out of the tub.
All right. So knowing what you just said about how different of players these guys are, how different they are of tight ends in the NFL, knowing if Andrews is going to miss the whole season or significant time, how much does that move up likely from his 1101 spot? I mean, does he get up into the 7th round area with Andrews, or is this a situation where like Flowers is the recipient of targets? Rashad Bateman, the freshly re-signed Rashad Bateman is the recipient of these targets.
He caught a touchdown pass against Kansas City on Thursday night and found himself in the 2nd round with us last year. You know, it just, yes, he will be overdrafted. I think he's about right where he needs to be. It would depend on when that happened. If it happened right now, things might change. They might ask him to do more things, but I don't necessarily think in this offense. You take him out of this offense and you put him in a place where you don't have those tools. Take him and put him with the Raiders. He looks more like a fantasy football tight end, putting big numbers up. There's a lot of teams he can play. He couldn't do what Kittle does at San Francisco. Couldn't even. But
the thing is that he can get open and create separation, almost a little bit more like a receiver, than a tight end.
Which gives him a commonality with every other player that we've been talking about on the Ravens tonight, and every other player that we've been talking about can do it better than he can.
All right, so guys, John Terry chiming in on YouTube. This whole analysis is like saying, "Hey, draft Justice Hill because Derrick Henry could get hurt."
John is Captain Obvious once again. Yes. You know what? And he's coming to Kentucky.
He is. Which is going to be great.
And you're going to have to come to Kentucky too, because we're going to have to continue this conversation. And I'm going to have you, when you arrive here, your own special gift, a Lamar Jackson jersey, the University of Louisville jersey.
There we go.
That is
nice. I take that. Thank you.
We're going to be ready for you. You have gifts waiting, sir, in Kentucky.
But what's wrong? So what's wrong with taking the handcuff?
Okay.
I mean, it makes sense to me.
Right. So John is saying, like, you could say this for lots of backups. Scott Hoyt, and we could get into this discussion as well, too, tonight, Kevin. Who's the best backup tight end? In other words, if any of the top tight ends goes down, who's the best backup? Adam Hahn is chiming in, like, Lamar and Henry are the Ravens to roster here. I get that. But at the same time, guys, I can't. Joe Del Zanero, the book of Baker Boy, has said there is no such thing as a bad pick after the 10th round. 1101 is where Isaiah Likely is going. At that point, I stopped looking at his downside. I stopped looking at his floor, and I just look at his ceiling. And maybe the ceiling never hits. Maybe Andrews goes down and Likely is like a fringe top 12, top 15 tight end. Okay, that's still a bet I'm willing to make at that point. I think there's something there. I think it's something that we need to be looking at in tight end premium leagues. And I'll leave it at that. Clearly, go ahead.
Kevin. So figure best ball, right? So if you're talking the 11th round and you're trying to draft evenly, now you have 2 players at every position already, which are your main starters. So you're really talking about, a backup anyways at that point, as far as your fantasy roster goes.
Right.
So,
which is fine. And the last thing I want to point out here, and Adam Hahn clearly pointed this out, everybody's sick of us talking about Ravens.
We can talk about other teams if you like.
We can. And listen, I am nothing but a host who wants to appease his audience. So let me ask you this about Baltimore. Kevin, why are you not drafting Tyler Loop? You have Tyler Loop on one team, the guy who is the heir apparent for Justin Tucker in Baltimore. Are you not a believer in him? As we get our kicker question out of the way tonight.
Yeah, I know everybody wants to talk about the kickers.
Right, yes.
But here's the thing. I do mostly best ball. So if you look at my array of fantasy teams, I am very heavy best ball where there's no kicker. Right. Okay. So that's part of the reason.
What do you think about Tyler Loop in a vacuum for fantasy this year?
So, again, I think you could get him later than he should be. I think he's going to do really pretty close to what Tucker would have put up anyways. I mean, the kid's got talent.
Yeah.
And they're definitely going to have kicking situations. And even if all they're doing is scoring touchdowns, he's going to get a lot of extra points. Because I believe, this is my bold statement, I believe the Ravens are going to average close to 40 points a game this year.
Balky, when listeners are tired of hearing content about the Ravens, you know what you should treat them to?
What's that?
Is a question from Cleveland. Think of something from Cleveland. Now,
There you go.
Let's just go to Cleveland if we're tired of the Ravens.
Well, here's the thing, and like obviously, Kevin, you saw the questions I sent you. You know, I looked over your ownership or whatever. So this is a leading question here. But is there a pass catcher in Cleveland right now, knowing the quarterback situation, knowing about all the pass catchers that they have? Is there one pass catcher, be it a running back, a wide receiver, or a tight end, that you perhaps like better than some of the other guys in Cleveland right now?
Well, I still take Njoku because, the guy looks like the Hulk. Right. He's pretty hard to tackle, I think, So I think the thing there is no matter how bad the quarterback is, I think that guy's going to make some plays. And then I'd say Judy. Judy at some point last year, I remember him just going nuts. He was open and they were just going to him every time. So I think that Judy still has value. So it's one of these things where you have a team. I don't think Cleveland is going to do very well this year as real football goes, NFL football goes. But there's always going to be some sort of fantasy, standout on every team. Every team's going to have something that's decent in fantasy. So I would say the safest bet is Njoku. Second to that would be Judy.
Let's stay in the D.C. metro area then, and let's move over to the Commanders. Well, let's just talk to me about Brian Robinson. Brian Robinson, my erstwhile, sometimes partner in Las Vegas, J.R. Fenton. J.R. will start whispering in my ear. Maybe we should start looking at Brian Robertson for later in the draft. Maybe we should start looking at Brian Robertson. Maybe, is Fenton proper to whisper that in my ear again continually this year?
Well, again, where he's drafting on average, there's over 20 running backs already taken before him, it seems like. So why not? He is their lead running back. Another guy, like you look at the Chiefs and with Pacheco, and he's dropping because it's like, oh, well, they got 5 running backs over there now. Well, he's still going to be the primary back. Now, I do draft Kareem Hunt a lot. So you'll notice that I'm heavy on that because it seems like they're going to give it to him when they get close to the end zone. But, back to the Commanders, I think the Commanders could potentially be the second highest scoring team. So I'm loving it in the Baltimore, Washington area that we have such great football here. But again, from a fantasy perspective, when I can't get Jackson, I'm taking Daniels. So that's my next quarterback. And, even though he's only going, only his second year, but I just think the way it's set up for him is looking really nice. So, and you think about the teams that hand it off to their running back at the goal line. And then you think about the teams that just let the quarterback poach the touchdowns from the running back at the goal line, like Josh Allen. So the Commanders will give Brian Robinson the ball inside the 10-yard line. So I think he's still got value. And again, especially where he's currently being drafted.
So that's the Robinson report here. You mentioned Kareem Hunt in your answer, and I want to get your thoughts on that backfield. Obviously, Pacheco, people are very excited about Brashard Smith, obviously still after the NFL draft. The way that you're handling the Chiefs backfield, for you, it's like sprinkling Kareem Hunt, and then that's it?
Well, yeah, I'm not huge on the Chiefs backfield. Okay, I do think most of the touchdowns are going to be passing touchdowns for them. Kelsey, I think, is kind of relegated to more just touchdown dependency. I don't think he's going to get like a ton of catches in the middle of the field. But I am high on the Chiefs, and I am high on Mahomes. Again, he's drafting way lower, really, kind of than I think he should be. Because you're looking at his receivers. Now that Rajee Rice is healthy, Xavier Worthy is a superstar. Rajee Rice is a superstar. Hollywood Brown, he's like an afterthought, but if he's healthy, he can get open and be a deep threat. And then they have, the great tight end. So I think the Chiefs are going to put up a lot more points than people, saw last year. They saw them struggle a lot last year. And one of the big problems was the offensive line. And they addressed that in the draft. So if Mahomes has time, it's going to be a different story. So I actually think they're going to do a lot better. I like fantasy players for them, but I would kind of lean more away from the running backs. The thing is with Kareem Hunt, I mean, I'm getting him with like the last pick in the draft. So, it's like, well, why not?
Okay. So that's Kareem Hunt. Ferrell,
I've got a question.
Yeah, we've kind of picked the brain of Kevin about Lamar Jackson.
Right.
There are other elite quarterbacks out there.
There are, and in regards to those elite quarterbacks, I'm wondering if you don't come away with Jackson, are you always in every format you play, and the most successfully and most interestingly, redraft in the FFPC main event, are you coming away with an elite quarterback on your team?
I'm one of the fancy players out there. I know there's a lot of people, they wait a long time on quarterback because obviously quarterbacks, the 20th quarterback's probably going to put up similar numbers to like the 10th quarterback. Mm-hmm. So I get it. But if I can get an elite quarterback and an elite tight end, and especially just the way the FFPC, is set up to be, I'm going to take them a little extra early. So I just feel like there's this rush on the receivers and the running backs in the first couple, 2-3 rounds, so heavy that you can get just like an amazing quarterback with a much later pick than really I think they should be. Mm-hmm. That's why I'm saying I even got Lamar Jackson in the 3rd round in a couple of these drafts. So, it could be said, people are going to say, okay, Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels, Lamar Jackson, but they're pretty clearly the top 3 quarterbacks in the league right now. And then Jaden Daniels after Jaden Daniels, I'd say you have Mahomes, Burrow, and Hurts. They're the second tier. And then if you can't get any of those 6, then I think you can wait. And, right. Just pick receivers and running backs and all that earlier. Mm-hmm.
All right, so there's a few things I want to get to on YouTube right now. We'll go to Adam Hahn first. We'll get to John Terry in a second. Adam wants to know, Kevin, is there a 0 QB strategy? Currently, he is in a big gorilla draft with the FFPC. He hasn't taken a quarterback through round 12. Is there something to be said for that? And I will say, for a lot of the pundits I've been listening to who draft in the FFPC, they have said this. 0 QB is a thing. Kevin, is 0 QB a thing for you this year?
Well, if I can't get one of those first 5 or 6 that I said, then yeah, I can wait forever. I mean, I would rather say, you guys were talking about Anthony Richardson earlier. I know there's big discussion about that. I mean, personally, I'd pretty much take any other starting quarterback over him. And I think eventually Daniel Jones is going to end up starting there one way or another. But
you wouldn't take Daniel Jones either.
Yeah, I don't like them, period. So yeah, you're right about that. But like Sam Darnold, he's like one of the last quarterbacks going. I mean, and now of course, because of Aaron Rodgers signing, he's going to move up, a little bit anyway. So there's that. But yeah, so I can see the strategy for the 0 quarterback. I can see that working. But I think it's silly to pass on Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels, and late in the 2nd round when they're going to be superstars this year.
All of that 0 quarterback strategy was beginning to get followers until about 3 years ago, when if you didn't have a good quarterback, you were basically toast.
Well, and Ferrell, to that point, Kevin, would you include Jalen Hurts on that list as well with those other elite quarterbacks?
I think I would.
Yeah, I do. I mean, yeah, I feel very safe with Jalen Hurts, So, again, I'm not going to go past, like, if I have opportunities. And actually, if you look at some of my leagues, by the way, I have Hurts as my 2nd quarterback.
Oh.
Yeah. So, now this is more best ball, and it's Superflex. Yeah, so if I can do it in Superflex, that's like instantaneous.
Yeah.
But even in best ball, why not? You're going to need another quarterback anyways. So, again, you can still get some decent, running backs and receivers. You're waiting a couple extra rounds or whatever, but they're still pretty close. And, once you get past the top 10 receivers in the whole NFL and the top 10 running backs in the whole NFL, then it's somewhat close. So I do see a strategy that's working for me, because not a lot of drafters are doing it this way, because they're going to skip getting a second quarterback for a while. So I can get a Hurts, a Burrow, a Mahomes. You'll see that in a lot where they're my second quarterback.
I want to ask you this too, focusing on tight ends. John Terry, who was on the show just a few weeks ago, wants to know a tight end question here. Where are you in drafting Brock Bowers, and where are you in drafting Trey McBride? In the FFPC Big Gorilla, Kevin, as you know, Bowers is the 106 as tight end 1. Trey McBride is the tight end 2. You can get him on average at 111. If you do have a mid-first round or a late first-round pick, you looking at either of these guys?
So I definitely thought about it for a bit with Bowers, but I feel like it's a little bit too high. I mean, you can get like CeeDee Lamb, you can get Barkley, you can get Gibbs, you can get Justin Jefferson at the same point that some people are taking Bowers right now. So for me, I mean, maybe if I have the 8th pick, I'll take Bowers if he's still sitting there. Now McBride, on the other hand, if I'm at the wheel at the end with the 12th pick, I'm going to take McBride as one of my 2, if he's there. I actually think there's a small possibility. I mean, fingers crossed on Kyler Murray having a better year this year, but I think there's a small possibility McBride might even do more than Bowers. I know a lot of people are going to disagree with that, but I think McBride and him are really close, and it just has to do with the quarterback play for that to make the difference there.
Shout out to Phil Hooten, who is hanging out tonight. Phil Hooten, if that name sounds familiar, players, he won the FFPC Main Event in 2020, and clearly he's attributing a lot of that to ingesting and consuming as much high-stakes fantasy football or content as possible so he can get back on the top in 2025. Listening to Kevin Horowitz tonight. Ferrell, why don't we throw one final question to Kevin, as we are fast running out of time tonight?
My final question could be, we could actually have a second part of that question, but we're running out of time. So here's my question. Give me a guy that you're going to live with on every team besides Lamar Jackson, a guy you love, a must-have player. He can be a sleeper, or he can be one of your elite players that you're actually seeking out. And give me a guy then that you just don't want on your squad, a player that's likely being pushed up the boards in the Darren Armani Fantasy Mojo, but it's not a guy for you. And then tell me about the Baltimore Ravens defense and special teams. So that's the assignments that I have for you.
Let me hit question 2 before question 1. So, and I hate saying it on some level, but I hinted at this earlier. I'm not going to take McCaffrey in the top, 10, 12 picks, because even though there's a chance he could lead the NFL again in rushing, but there's a much better chance in my mind that he's going to get hurt again.
No McCaffrey for you.
Right. So that's that. As far as a player, I definitely want to have, an elite player. I mean, I think one thing that's interesting right now is how far CeeDee Lamb is falling. And I think it's a big deal that they got Pickens. I mean, Pickens is a great receiver, don't get me wrong, but I actually think that's going to give Lamb more targets, because I think that now you can't just automatically double Lamb. They got to account for Pickens a little bit. And if Dak Prescott is healthy all year, another guy I get worried about getting hurt. But if he's healthy, him and Lamb all day long, right? So if Lamb, I can get Lamb with the 6th or 7th pick in the draft, and in some ways, I think he could be number 2 or number 3. So I like Lamb. And then you said, what was the third question? Sorry, I lost that one.
The Ravens defense, yeah.
So I love the Ravens defense too. I mean, if you look at my main event,
defense is special teams.
Yeah, well, so if you look at I like Denver. I like Philly. I like Denver. Okay, 1 and 2.
What about
I would go Ravens 3.
Okay, all right.
Mm-hmm.
So the Ravens are going to average close to 40 points a game this year. and they're going to have the number 3 defense, which means the teams that are trying to play catch up are going to fail miserably. It is a Baltimore Ravens year, baby.
Right.
It's our year, baby.
Not that I want to turn this into a Ravens show more so than it already is. But did not Baltimore take in the first round of the NFL draft Malachi Starks from Georgia? So literally another playmaking safety that could play center field, that could turn interceptions into touchdowns, scoops and scores could happen with Starks as well. I don't know, man. It just seems like the Ravens reload every year. I think you could do a lot worse.
The Ravens are frightening. The Ravens are frightening for the rest of the league because the defense is going to be elite. Okay, and it really wasn't. Okay, the last couple of years, and they had to do it more with offense. Now it's going to be all day long. They can score on offense, and they're not going to give up a lot of points on defense. So,
I love it.
Now the only question is, right, but this doesn't matter fantasy-wise. The only question is Lamar going to do it in the playoffs as far as real NFL goes?
I think you're going to win 19 regular season games because you're going to get 2 bonus games. Just
19?
Yeah, you're going to get 2 bonus wins just for the dominant aspect. That'll be a new league rule. They'll vote that in at the league's meeting down in October down there in Florida.
The Ravens win 19 games in the regular season this year, and Cleveland Browns get demoted to the UFL. Clearly,
there we go.
Refresh my memory, Kevin. I don't know this offhand. Do you play any Dynasty or no?
No, I actually don't do any Dynasty. But I am kind of going, I guess there's a few guys out there, but I'm kind of going for like Guinness Book of World Records for how many best ball teams I have. I mean, we're 3 months before the season begins, and I currently have 217 teams.
Bravo. Bravo.
Yeah, I'm in on it this year.
But that's the great thing about best ball, because you can spend all your time drafting, and then you don't have to worry about it once the season starts. Like, it sets itself. There's no lineup management. By the way, in case anybody's wondering, the FFPC has 2 FFPC Best Ball Tournaments available. It's both Superflex and regular right now. $300,000 and $100,000 grand prizes, $125 and $35 entry, respectively. Register for those at myffpc.com. Corey Walters, I'll answer your question here in a second in regards to Dynasty Superflex. But before I do that, I want to thank our guest for coming on tonight. Kevin Horowitz, the 8-time FFPC League champion, and I have no doubt that 8 is going to be a much larger number after 2025 with all the leagues that you're in. Thank you so much for hopping aboard tonight, my friend. Good luck in drafting season as we move forward here. Less than 100 days until the start of the NFL season. So get your drafts in now. Kevin, I know you're doing that. It's something you would preach to all FFPC players. We enjoyed our conversation tonight. Take care. Have a crab cake for Ferrell. Have a crab cake for me. We will see you in Maryland at some point very soon.
Look for my email tomorrow, Kevin, because we got to have you in Kentucky. Crab cakes and bourbon, there's nothing better.
I agree. Those are my 2 favorite things, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have you in Kentucky. You are made.
All right. I really appreciate you guys having me on, and I think it's going to be a great year. So we'll talk again at the end of the fantasy season, see where we're at, okay?
Thank you, Kevin. We look forward to that. Be good. Enjoy your weekend, my friend.
All right. Take care. Thank you.
That is Kevin Horowitz, ladies and gentlemen, the 8-time FFPC League champ, joining us on the show tonight. Ferrell, you play Dynasty. I play Dynasty. I'll try to answer Corey Walters'
Not successfully.
Why? Same with me. But Corey is asking, in Dynasty Superflex, he needs a second quarterback, obviously, which is tantamount to success in Dynasty Superflex leagues. He also needs another running back. If he is looking to trade Saquon Barkley to get said second quarterback and another running back, what should he be looking for? Again, this is kind of in the eye of the beholder, but I'd be looking for somewhere in the neighborhood of a top 20 quarterback, perhaps on the younger side, and then maybe a top 15 running back. I don't know. I mean, I'm speaking in sort of and again on the younger side with the running back as well. We're speaking in kind of in the matrix. I don't know what you can get in your league, but I think I would start there and then shoot upward and then sort of fall back on that. I wouldn't go much lower than that, Ferrell. I don't know if you have any thoughts on this.
My thoughts are, as a cautionary tale, that our beloved Corey should not consider trading Saquon Barkley. He should go to YouTube and see young son tells general manager not to trade Saquon.
Right.
or not to
let him go to free agency.
Let
Yes.
him go to free agency. No, sir, you don't want to do that. There's no future in that. We've had a really great chat tonight, and a lot of new guys dropping in. I really like this contribution from Kevin Hahn. I thought he did a great job of that. There's Hawkey coming in here telling us it's 76 days. He can't wait. One of the things I would say to Kevin, say to our good friend Mr. Hahn, he had up a post about Patrick Mahomes' success rate in a pocket.
Mm-hmm.
Do you recall that one, Balky?
Yeah, I'm going to try to find it right now.
It's right there. That's a fantasy football stat that we can look away from. I think it's kind of like unrealized air yards. With a clean pocket. Why does Mahomes have a clean pocket? Well, it's probably when it was compromising his feet and they didn't think he could move that well, and they only rushed 3 and they dropped a linebacker and put in an extra safety or maybe a corner. All his receivers were hurting this year, and none of them could get open. The offensive line was hurting. The clean pocket didn't stay clean too long. Right. And it was a rough year. It's a rough year. If you take, we have a guest on tonight that obviously knows his football and knows how to win. There were games when Kelsey was targeted 13, 16, 13, 10 times during the year. This because Kelsey was the only guy that was trying to get open. And if you remember Kelsey towards the end of some of those games, he was completely spent. He could barely finish the route. And it's just the world's going to be different in Kansas City this year. So I would look at Mahomes differently with the healed, and I wouldn't let stats overrule because every one of these guys it's just like our guests tonight. Every one of these guys devote a great deal of their time watching football, and they're smarter with their eyes than what the statisticians are with the numbers that they hook up. That's what I'm saying.
I think the most, if we're going to include a stat, this is not a fantasy.
Adam, not Kevin.
Adam Hahn, yeah. Patrick Mahomes is going as quarterback 6 right now, which to me is interesting when you consider the fact that quarterback 6 in the FFPC Big Gorilla is 2.5 rounds after quarterback 5 with Joe Burrow, and it's also a round and a half earlier than quarterback 7 with Baker Mayfield. So he's kind of on an island there. And if you want to pick him a little bit higher, that's cool. If you want to take advantage, if he slips a little bit, that's cool too. I'm kind of, I don't want to say I'm Switzerland with Patrick Mahomes, but I think you can tell yourself the story either way with Mahomes in 2025 as far as how well he's going to do for fantasy. And I'm not I think that's a very good assessment. Richard Ross just came in with something really, really good here. Throw that one up. Yep, I got it right here.
Kelsey changed his workout since he started dating Swift. Boy, I would too. I would change. I would change a lot of things if I started dating swiftly.
Ferrell, we covered on the and I'll get into this in a second, on the FFPC Insider Access show last night. And this could be a fake name, I don't know. But we had a live draft. Theo Greminger from Fantasy Points hopped aboard. Our good buddy Dave Turp was on as well. The player with the number 1 pick in the draft we covered last night, his name was not Taylor Swift. He was Tyler Swift. And I don't think he got Travis Kelce in the draft last night. Very interesting stuff as well. Another thing that Adam Hahn is pointing out, Mahomes has not been good for consecutive years. The Chiefs made the Super Bowl in spite of him, not because of him. I think they made the Super Bowl, especially last year, because of 2 things. I think the defense was really, really good, and I think that fortune just favored him last year. Sometimes
and I think when Adam comes on the show as a guest, we won't have to ask him the question.
Right? No, we won't. We know how he feels. Clearly. Yeah. Which is good stuff. As well. John Terry saying more hip thrust for Travis Kelce.
Oh, my goodness. That was uncalled for.
It was uncalled for. And on that note, we will put a bow on the show tonight, but not before we tell everybody about the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship at KFFSC.com. Ferrell, I'm just figuring this out right now. The $100 Sweet 16 Championship in the Vontae Mack division. I'm on the clock, and I've been on the clock for the last hour and a half. I apologize to everybody. I'll be making my pick.
Well, you better take Likely or another Raven.
Yeah, exactly. I'll take maybe Hopkins. You never know. I might go really off the board here. So I'm on the clock in that, but that doesn't mean just because that league's full, that doesn't mean you can't play in the KFFSC. The Run to Daylight Sweet 16 Championship, the old-fashioned division, which I teased at the top of the show. I'm in that league. That's a slow draft. It's a 6-hour.
We need to get that one going.
Yeah,
that one needs to come on, and we have a live one coming up on the 15th. This is a slow draft, and we really need 5 guys to jump in there and get that one moving.
We had the I'm in the Rocky Blyer, not Rocky Blyer. What's the one I'm in that's drafting on Tuesday the 13th?
This I do not know.
No, there's one coming up. Is that the Always Dreamin'?
That's Always Dreaming. I believe that's on the 15th.
Sunday the 15th.
I scheduled that on Father's Day because I knew with your 8 kids you wouldn't be doing anything special that day anyway.
But that one's full. That one's full. So you can't draft in that one.
You can't get in that one anyway. You got to be a wish I had.
You're a wish I had. So don't be a wish I had. Go to KFFSC.com. I'm in plenty of other leagues there, as well as a lot of the luminaries who are not only popping on in the YouTube chat, but have been guests on this show before. You can compete against them, sharpen up your skills for the FFPC, and win some good money. And I think the biggest thing too, Ferrell, 96 players in the Sweet 16 championship, and somebody is going to win 10 grand. Man.
96 teams and a $300 entry fee, a lot of money to win in each division, and be at the end of week 14 in first or second of your division, and you will be added to the Sweet 16 and guaranteed a prize, the top prize, $10,000. So I like their numbers.
Yeah, Tom Smith telling me to stay away. I've already drafted with Tom a couple of times this year. I'm trying to stay away from his guys. I'm letting him have his guys. I'm taking my guys. Corey Walters wants to know, what is the link for the KFFSC leagues? Farrell, it is simply, as I have posted here, KFFSC.com. KFFSC.com. You can register for all those leagues there, which I know with the first full weekend of June opening up, that is where everybody's going to be going. So good to have you aboard. We will talk with you again next Friday. I have to check. I don't think I have a guest lined up yet, but I will for June 13th. Ferrell, enjoy your weekend, man. We will talk with you again 7 days from now.
Thank you very much.
That is the definitive commissioner of fantasy football, one J. Ferrell Elliott. KFFSC.com is where to go to sign up for his leagues. I want to thank Kevin Horowitz, of course, Ferrell Elliott, the FFPC, Rob, Bryce, and of course, each and every one of you for listening, streaming, downloading, watching this, however you're consuming this content. Thank you. We say kudos and kudos again. We will be back next Friday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. If you are looking to consume more content from the FFPC until then, check out Thursday night's Insider Access show on the Better Sports Network. You can check out that on the BSN socials, the Better Sports Network website, as well as the FFPC socials. We had live FFPC Best Ball coverage, something that I always like getting on. Theo Greminger from Fantasy Points every single year. He drafted a team live from the 2-hole, going for $300,000 last night. You can check that out. Dave Terpoli came on to pick. It was great because Theo and Dave normally own these teams together, but Terp was not involved in this at all. So we got some real analysis from him. Got some good feedback from Theo on how he felt his team went. He gave us an interesting grade on his team at the end of the show. So check that out in case you missed it. We will go live with Insider Access this coming Thursday at 7 p.m. until 9 p.m. Fantasy Points editor-in-chief and SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio's Fantasy Football Mornings host, Joe Dolan, will join me for 2 full hours on a lot of great FFPC stuff and how he's falling in on ADP, some player evaluations, and draft strategy as well. Join the FFPC Big Gorilla Tournament right now. $1 million grand prize, $350 entry fee. I should look this up right now. I know I normally do this, but I'm not commissioning tonight. Our good friend Bryce is with the midnight draft tonight, the 11:55 draft. Looks like it's already full. Okay, so you can't register for any more drafts tonight with the Big Gorilla, but starting at 1 p.m. tomorrow, you definitely can. We already have some people in that one, and we'll have drafts going on all weekend long for the FFPC Big Gorilla. Again, $1 million grand prize, just $350 to enter. You get a $50 discount on every third team there. Early Rampage tournament still going on. About 4 dozen early Rampage leagues still left there. So you can still get in there and play for 2 grand prizes for the price of 1 entry fee. 7 Bananas promo obviously still going on as well. The FFPC main event will feature 2 live drafts this weekend, one tomorrow night, and then, of course, one Sunday night. You can always get in on FFPC Main Event slow drafts as well. $1 million grand prize, $6 million plus prize pool as well. Check that out at myffpc.com. I alluded to the Greminger and Terpoli Insider Access show last night. You can compete against Theo indirectly, at least, with you joining an FFPC Best Ball Tournament League. Right now, $125 will get you in a $300,000 grand prize, and for the first time ever, a $100,000 runner-up prize. So you can finish second and still take home six figures at a $125 price. If you want to get in even lower than that, $35 will get you into the Superflex Best Ball Tournament. That is still featuring a $100,000 grand prize there. 30-second, 60-second, 2-hour, and 6-hour clocks available at myffpc.com. And if you like playing fantasy football every single day of the calendar year, Dynasty startups are for you. Entry fees range from $100 all the way up to $5,000, 2,000 plus leagues. Over the course of the last decade and a half, none have ever folded. So if you are in an FFPC Dynasty Startup League, you are in for the long haul. myffpc.com. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment on the video, share it with your friends, share it with your enemies, and get notified each and every time we go live, which, by the way, two things. I should have mentioned this at the top of the show. Two big things next week. Tuesday night, the June edition of the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown. We will go live at 10 p.m. Tuesday night. It'll be myself and another FFPC guest on that show. And then next Friday night, everybody wants to know, hey, when are the pros versus Joes? When are the Joes going to be revealed? I have the list. I know who's a Joe. I know who's not a Joe this year. You want to know who's going to be a Joe? Tune in next Friday, June 13th, 10 p.m. Eastern time. Within the first half hour of the show, I will reveal the 42 Joes that are going to be competing against the 42 pros this year for glory. 7 free 2026 FFPC Main Event teams up for grabs. We will tell you who those are next week on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. Tune in then. It's going to be fun. Some names won't surprise you. Some names will surprise you who won in that drawing. It's going to be a lot of fun. Don't miss it. Next Friday, 10 p.m. Eastern time on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. I've talked enough. I want to wish you all good night. Thank you so much for listening, viewing, watching, streaming, downloading. Your weekend officially starts now.
This has been another episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com. It was broadcast live and was watched around the world. Balky and Ferrell will be back next week with more analysis, more interviews, and more advice from guests much smarter than they are. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk with you again next week.
You guys know I don't usually like ending the show on a sour note or a sad note, but I feel like I have to do justice here tonight with everything that's been going on in the fantasy football industry over the last 48 hours. I was doing the the Insider Access show last night, and about 15 minutes into the show, I caught wind on X that a former co-host of the Insider Access show, Anthony Cervino from RotoWire, had actually passed away Wednesday of this week, and he was way too young, younger than me actually, 40 years old. Leaves behind a wife and a 10-year-old son. I'll read what RotoWire had to say about it on X, because I think they put it very, very succinctly. We are heartbroken by the passing of Anthony Cervino, known to many as the Real NFL Guru. Anthony was a passionate fantasy football voice and a friend to so many in the community. He brought energy and authenticity to everything he did. More than a creator, he was a devoted husband, loving father, and true supporter of this space. Our thoughts are with his loved ones, especially his wife and son, during this incredibly difficult time. Please consider donating to Anthony's family via GoFundMe, and the link is in a pinned tweet, x.com/RotoWire. It's RotoWire's pinned tweet right now. I'll just say this, and I don't, Derek Brown had some really good words to say in regards to this passing for Anthony Cervino. So I don't really want to. August 8th of 2024, Anthony hosted the high stakes fantasy football show on the Better Sports Network with me. And it was really the longest conversation I had with him, 2 hours, which I think is par for the course with a lot of people who host that show with me. A lot of times I don't have the opportunity to hang out and have long conversations outside that show. But Anthony was very willing to come on the show with me. Less than 10 months ago, he hosted it. He was doing RotoWire podcasts and shows on X and YouTube with Jim Coventry, who co-hosted the show with me just a couple of weeks ago. So this really caught me off guard. I just said this on X last night. RIP to a really cool guy, a hard worker, and a person I enjoyed spending time with. Anthony and I did a show less than 10 months ago, and his passion and his work ethic stood out incredibly. Prayers up for his wife and son. You're the man, Anthony. I didn't know him all that well, but I do consider him a friend. I think he considered me a friend as well. Really cool guy. And I'm not going to be able to do justice for the impact that he had on this plane, on this earth, especially when I consider that I never hung out with him and his wife and his kid. I just know that they're heartbroken right now. If you have the chance to donate to the GoFundMe, just go to x.com/RotoWire. The link is right on there. The FFPC, my account has retweeted it as well, so you can check that out there. It hits home a little bit because Anthony was 5 years younger than me, and this comes, his passing came a little bit less than 2 weeks before the anniversary of less than a year ago. I lost my brother at age 43 in mid-June of last year. So I would just say this, and I'm okay, and it's fine. Send your prayers up and thoughts up to the Cervino family because they definitely need them right now. I'll just say this, and I say this every time. Tell the people around you that are close to you that you love them. Overdo it. Give them overkill on that. Every time you hug them a little bit tighter. You just never know. And we already miss Anthony. His contribution to the space was great. But more than his contribution to fantasy football was his contribution to his family and his friends. You have to go no further than X to find out the outpouring of people that he helped get started in this industry. Casey Kasem, Derek Brown, I've mentioned as well. We all owe a certain debt to Anthony Cervino, and we'll always miss him. And it's going to be a little bit hollow going forward. So support his family if you can, as you can see fit. RIP Anthony, we miss you so much, and we will see you again on the other side. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. We will talk with you again next week.